day, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, or if it's your first time, welcome to my channel. Today I am going to do my part 3 of Lauren Matthias on the Mormon Stories Podcast. I'm going to respond to her interview. I don't have any particular credentials. I'm an ex-mechanic with an English degree. I don't have any mental health or law or religious special knowledge or anything like that. These are just my opinions, and I'm just doing this for your entertainment and mine. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm just going to start with this. This is like this little 2-minute intro video that's on the Mormon Stories Podcast channel. Because I had the impression that this podcast was kind of about critiquing the LDS faith. And then it didn't seem like they were doing much critiquing, so I thought we should just listen to John Dehlin in his own words, tell us what it's all about, and then go on from there.
Hi everyone, I'm Dr. John Dehlin, and welcome to the Mormon Stories Podcast YouTube channel. I have a PhD in clinical and counseling psychology, and for the past 20 years, I've helped millions of people reclaim their power from unhealthy religious orthodoxy and, where necessary, transition to healthier, happier lives in or out of organized religion. On Mormon Stories Podcast, we provide support to questioning Mormons, Mormons in faith crisis, and anyone else who is awakening from the difficulties of a high-demand religion.
Okay, so I don't want to listen to all of this because it's making my eyeballs hurt. But in his own words, right? It seems like he's here to critique this stuff, and yet I have heard very little criticism so far. So we'll just carry on with Lauren. I'm just going to speed things up a bit here. Jeez. Alright, so I can't remember where we left off exactly, but I'm sure Lauren will fill us in.
Yeah, so to go back actually before my mission, as I'm preparing to go to my mission, I have to go to the temple. That was the thing I was avoiding. I did not want to go to the temple. I had no desire to go to the temple. In fact, I felt it was a sacrifice I was doing. I wanted to go on a mission. I didn't want to go to the temple, but I had to do the temple. I didn't want to wear garments. I didn't want, I just didn't want to go. So I didn't go until the week before I entered the Mission Training Center in Provo. And I took temple prep classes from a wonderful couple in my ward. They were great. They sort of said, it's great. It's just is what it is. And they're wonderful. And I went to the Salt Lake Temple. And I actually
Great story, Lauren.
Washington anointings. I thought it was actually really lovely. Or sweet. I don't know the history of it or whatever, and I know a lot of, it was whatever it was that day. I remember thinking the blessing was sweet. It was oh, that's kind of pretty. But that was about it. My mom was like, do you want me to get you a temple dress before you go? Do you want me to get you temple clothes? I actually said, no, the dresses are ugly. I don't want to do my laundry. I don't want this stuff. I'll rent, we're good. No. And I waited, like I said, it was 3 days before I entered the MTC, just in case. I think there was if I change my mind on my mission, I won't have gone to the temple. And so I went. It was a miserable kind of a day. I was actually on my period. The last thing I want to be wearing.
Sorry, I guess that people of the LDS faith will understand a little more about what she's talking about. I cannot edify people about the process of missions or going to the temple or any of that. It's surprising to me how much she says without saying anything. I think that she repeats a theme multiple times in slightly different words, and it seems like she's saying a lot, but she's really not saying much of anything, and she really lacks insight. I could see why she would be nervous to go on here, because it's really revealing of just how much of an empty vessel she actually is. I know it's sped up, but look at her face right now. She looks like she's in a panic, almost.
It's white. But I think of him just a little distant. I have a migraine. I remember my older brother taking me up to the circle, and I remember appreciating that because he was trying to. The prayer circle. Because I think he was just trying to say, hey, I'll take you and I'll help you. It was a kind gesture. I still see that as a kind gesture today. But I did not like the temple. And
what does that mean, right? That's what I'm talking about. I still see that as a kind gesture today. Like, that is absolutely meaningless drivel. It is no wonder this thing is 6 hours long.
Can I ask you a question about that, Lauren?
Yeah.
I think so much of, our practices in Mormonism sometimes are like modeled by our family or our parents or something. Were your parents like temple attending, or did they, some families are just so much about the temple. They plan their family vacations around going to see temples. Okay. Yeah.
So that probably makes sense. Yeah. Temple wasn't like
wasn't a big thing
in our house.
Okay.
And they were very big on serving in other ways.
Sure.
Like we were very active. Yeah. The temple wasn't a big thing for my parents.
I'm not surprised based on what you've told us, kind of about your upbringing.
Yeah.
But I just find that interesting.
Yeah.
That you had kind of an aversion to it even before you went.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense. And I've actually never even thought about that. But yeah, no, they didn't go a ton. Like that wasn't a thing I remember. I don't ever remember my parents like going to the temple. I'm sure they did, but I don't remember that at all. Yeah. So
you waited until 3 days before and you did the washing and anointings. Your brother took you to the prayer circle. Do you have other memories of that day?
Just that you didn't love it.
Just that I didn't love it. I think I've even just blocked a bit of it out.
Yeah.
But I remember the garments. It was the garments that I really didn't want to wear. And so I do remember walking more than the temple. I remember the aftermath, walking into my house, walking in my bedroom, taking off my clothes and looking at myself in garments in my full length mirror. And I just started
the aftermath. It's a weird framing. And she's about to start crying, apparently, after looking at herself in garments. So I don't know what the significance of the garments are. I assume this is all kind of similar to confirmation and that sort of stuff, but I don't even know that much about that, honestly.
Crying. And I walked out into the hallway, just in my garments, into my parents' bedroom where I knew my mom was sitting. She was working in there. And I looked at her and I just burst into tears and I fell on her. It was very dramatic, but I fell on her bedroom floor in the fetal position and just started crying. And I said, I hate these.
Okay, so I don't know if I even believe that. That is just, I guess that explains why she calls it the aftermath. But why? I hate these? She didn't like the dress or whatever? Am I missing something? So she had to fall on the floor in the fetal position, sobbing because she didn't like her dress? I'm sure somebody can explain to me what this is about, what the garments thing is about. So please do, because I don't really understand it.
And she was really sweet. She's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I know. You'll get used to them and maybe I can help you. She didn't shame me or anything, but I just remember that moment. Yeah, it's probably very dramatic, but that's how I felt. And when I went to that...
Sorry, so this was something, garments, it seems like maybe garments are something she has to wear on a regular basis, or she has to wear them on her mission or something, maybe? Which would explain a little bit more. I don't know about the fetal position, necessarily, but... yeah, I can understand rebelling against something extremely, if we're talking about the kind of clothes that, what's his name, Warren Jeff's wives all wore and stuff like that, I can see how she might reject that. Not sure about the fetal position and the sobbing and the whatever, but again, she's describing her mother as sweet. She described the ceremony as sweet. It seems to be a go-to adjective qualifier that is mostly meaningless to my mind.
HTC, I told my MTC companions, I don't like the temple. I don't want to go. I had to go once in MTC and they were really sweet. They're like, well, we'll stay with you and it's okay. And then I didn't have to go on my mission because there was no temple except for the Kirtland Temple, which belonged to the community of Christ. In fact, I actually, my heart sunk a little bit that when they sold it to us. I actually really loved that it belonged to the community of Christ. But I didn't have to go on my mission, so I just never really gone to the temple much. There you go. I'm not a temple goer. Never have been. And yeah. And I stopped wearing my garments, I think, a couple years after my mission. So I just decided they weren't for me. Anyway, so I get on my mission, and one thing I loved about my mission, again, is it allowed me to really learn and study all of this deeper doctrine that I had no idea about the church. For me...
Oh, she got to learn and study deep doctrine. I'm very interested to hear what she learned. Here we go. Deep doctrine from Lauren Matthias.
The church was simply, God loves us, we'll be together forever. I knew the basics of the kingdoms, but I really got to delve into the deep doctrine. I got to learn a lot. I read the Doctrine and Covenants multiple times. I love the Old Testament. That's my book. I actually didn't read the Book of Mormon very much in my mission. I'm not a big Book of Mormon reader. And one interesting thing though was,
what do you love about the Old Testament, Lauren? What's your favorite thing about the Old Testament? Name one thing about the Old Testament. Any single thing.
there were Community of Christ members. That's the reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. People that wanted to learn. There were Community of Christ members that wanted to learn. There were Rigdonites. So oftentimes we were teaching about Brigham Young and not Joseph Smith. There was a wide range of Mormonism. And there was one couple that we were teaching who were Community of Christ members, but they were actually reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints members and disliked how the Community of Christ had given women the priesthood.
So is this the mission then, is proselytizing? Is that basically what a mission is? Do you perform some kind of actual service, or is the service that you're teaching people about Mormonism, or both, or something else altogether? I don't know about Mormonism. Sorry, I'm not qualified to really comment on a lot of this stuff. It's very, it's just very different from what I was involved in at this age. And I had no religious upbringing at all, so a lot of it is really foreign to me.
Because they wanted everything to be just like Joseph Smith. They wanted everything to be pure Joseph Smith. And so they got into the fact that they were interested in getting baptized, and we were teaching them. It was going really well. And they also got into the fact that they were upset that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints was saying that Joseph Smith was a polygamist, because they did not believe Joseph Smith was a polygamist. They believed that it started with Brigham Young. And I thought, here I am full circle. I'm like, oh, here come my Google search results. And so we said, well, we really do think he was, according to some history books. So what did I do? So
Is that the really deep doctrine that she got into, I guess? The history books about Joseph Smith?
We left, and we scheduled another appointment to come back. They enjoyed talking to my companion and I, and were really trying to search. And so I said, we have to go to the church building. We have to go get into it. It was a little branch. And I said, it was Chardon, Ohio. And try to get the list of Joseph Smith's wives and bring it to him. Like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, that was probably the last thing they wanted. But I'm sitting there thinking, I've got to do this good deed for them.
That'll convince them.
You're going to find it in the church library?
Oh, I'm an idiot.
Your local branch building.
Yeah, I remember we got the keys to the ward. It was late at night. The library was locked, but we knew how to break into the library. You get an extension cord from the vacuum, and you remove the ceiling tile, and then you put the extension cord through the ceiling tile, and you twist the doorknob. We did it. We did it.
Wow.
And we got into the library. Well, it was all for a good cause. We got into the library. Right. And we made ourselves comfortable in that branch library. And they had all of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints history books there. We just pulled them down and found it. We found it. We found all of his wives. And then we made Xerox copies of it. And thinking that this is going to be here you go.
I'm trying to know what book in the 90s lists Joseph Smith's plural wives.
Well, this was 2000. This was 2002, 2003.
Could have been in Sacred Loneliness, but I'm just trying to imagine.
Well, it was like
Sacred Loneliness.
it was the church history. It was it was like an encyclopedia. I
know, but I think we all felt like that history was hidden from us as Mormons. So normally we wouldn't have found. I'm not doubting you, because you found it, but I'm just saying I'm surprised, because most of us reached our 20s and 30s not knowing that Joseph Smith ever had plural wives, right? Yeah, well, I think that maybe that's actually why I've always been a little bit of an apologist when it comes to people saying that, I wasn't taught that Joseph Smith was a polygamist, but when I wanted to know, I found it in the church building. Mm-hmm,
yeah. I think that I've always been no, it's there for people. At least it was for me in this little tiny branch.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think she really did that? Went on the Mission Impossible thing and broke into the church library and found out the truth about Joseph Smith? Anyway, I'm not sure. So she was against polygamy, as far as I understand it. So I'm not sure where this is going. Again, there's very little in the way of actual pushback against any of the toxicity of the church. In my opinion, polygamy is wrong. So, just to be clear.
In Chardon, Ohio, you just had to use an extension cord to get in.
And you mentioned having Fawn Brody's book in your home growing up.
Yeah. Fawn Brody's book, No Man Knows Our History, was on our bookshelf. I didn't know what it was until someone mentioned it was anti-Mormon literature, and I was like,
she lists Joseph Smith's plural wives.
Does she? Well, that was in my bookshelf growing up, and I said, oh, well, we have that book. So I never read it, but I was like, yeah, it's in our bookshelf. And my dad also, he bought me a Quran for one of my teenage birthdays too. We just, my dad really taught just us to be open and learn and be curious and interested in other worlds, cultures, and religions.
So I wonder how much she knows about the Quran. Tell us one thing about the Quran, Lauren.
I remember when I said to my dad, "Oh, Fawn Brody's book," he's like, "Yeah, isn't it interesting? She's a scholar of..."
Fawn Brody sounds like. I might have to look that up.
Church history. But I pulled Joseph Smith's wives from the Chardon, Ohio branch.
That's a great story.
It is a great story, especially the entry into the building. Yeah. And you gave it to this couple.
We gave it to this couple, which probably wasn't what they wanted. I mean, it was a nice lesson. They were very sweet. We ended with actually playing a rendition of Spirit of God, which is a hymn that both we understood.
Again, it's that sweet thing. And to me, it's really insulting. It's like she's talking down to all these people who are so sweet. I don't know. I mean, sweet can be complimentary, obviously. It just seems like it just seems very dismissive coming from her. I may be nitpicking her, I don't know, but calling grown adults sweet, as though that kind of encompasses all that they are, is very, I think it sort of diminishes them as like adults, right? Adults are or should be a little more sophisticated than just being sweet, right? Like, isn't it keep sweet and obey or something like that? Anyway, just saying.
Both religions loved because it was, an origin hymn. And it was a nice visit. I think we visited them a couple more times, and I learned at a young age that just because we hand them a Xerox copy of all of Joseph Smith's wives doesn't mean that they're going to be like, sold. Okay, let's do this. But yeah, I think more interesting was the fact that, I was learning about polygamy and all these sort of deep doctrinal things on my mission. And yeah.
Polygamy and all these deep doctrinal things. So I didn't know that polygamy was a deep doctrinal thing. And she keeps talking about deep doctrine without making any reference to anything specific or any way that she was changed by it or had her eyes opened by it. Although she does acknowledge that just showing somebody facts does not necessarily get them to change their mind about a thing, which we know from Dr. John, and is that whole situation of cognitive bias and everything is quite relevant in all of this. So I'm not sure what the point is in that, but I don't believe that she studied the deep doctrine or that she learned anything that, was able to inform her growth and development as a human being.
So I think, and I think the way I always thought is like, well, of course they're not teaching it in Sunday school. I didn't learn in high school about Benjamin Franklin's illegitimate wives either. Why? Probably because it's not relevant to the lesson on hope and faith. But I mean, I get it. I'm not. So
yeah, it's totally relevant, and it's being hidden because it's like, oh God, they hide the bad things and pretend that they're good, and they wear these masks. I mean, of course they don't tell you about the terrible things that they did when they're writing the history of how great they were. That's what power is. How, like, this is a grown woman in her 40s, and she's like, oh, they didn't mention the polygamy because it wasn't relevant to the message of faith. Like, what could be more relevant? Honestly. Daft as the day is long, this woman.
I think that's just how I felt for a long time as a bit of an apologist. Like, well, it's there if you want to find it, but of course we're not going to probably gather in church for worship and be like, today's lesson, Fanny.
Fanny Alger.
Yeah. So that's, yeah. Anyway, I'm trying to think.
So how was your mission? Like, what type of mission were you, and how did it go overall for you?
I loved my mission. Yeah. To this day, I can say I loved my mission.
To this day, I can say I loved my mission. Like, is that she says that, she uses that phrase a lot to this day, as though that is, indicative of the depth of her feeling and experience, when it's basically, again, it's meaningless. It doesn't mean anything. If you loved your mission, you loved your mission. She tries to big things up and make them greater and more important than they are. You can just say, I loved my mission. This is what I mean. Like, she talks a lot, but she doesn't really say much.
It was like it takes away my entire identity and past. We're all in the same clothes. I lose my first name. My name is just Sister Johnson. They put me with people I don't know from across the country that I would never be friends with, to live with otherwise, except that we met on our mission. I think that was good for me personally, like to learn about a little bit more about self-love and some of maybe my talents and gifts. Like, there was so much self-hatred and self-doubt before. And all of a sudden I learned, unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that I was a really good missionary, that I really cared about people. And I think I was a little bit more mature. I went when I was almost 23. I'd had some life experience. So when people would say, like, need to go track, I'd be like, we're not tracking. Like, why do we want to spend time with people that don't want us around? Like, go visit a less active. Go visit someone that actually wants us to be there. Go listen to people. When people would say, you need to stop seeing them if they're not progressing, like, that's so stupid. If someone likes our visit, we're here to serve, whoever that is. And I valued so much, like, let's just listen to people. Like, everyone has a story. And I found myself so interested in every person's house we visited. Like, everyone had a story to share. That was actually where my love of stories. Like, everyone has a story, and we need to listen to them. And that's a lot of what I did on my mission, and cared about those that were.
See what I mean? She just says everyone has a story and we need to listen to them 8 different ways, but all of them are just saying the exact same thing. Why do we need to listen to them, Lauren? Why? Like, let's hear some actual insight into anything. It's like you're just parroting things you've heard and you don't understand what they really mean. And maybe she did love everybody's stories. I mean, I wasn't there. I'm not inside her head. I don't know. People that are personality disordered or have high narcissistic traits or whatever, they are like the rest of us in many, many ways. And one of those ways is that they have preferences and likes and dislikes and things that fire them up and things that bore them and all the rest of it. So, it may be true that she liked to meet people and hear their stories. I'm not saying that that's not true. I'm just saying that she doesn't really have anything. She doesn't seem to get the import of anything that she's saying, and she puts the emphasis in the wrong places with things like, when I was saying she's always saying, to this day, as though it was some transformative moment. Everything is some huge transformative moment and is so fraught with meaning and everything, and yet it's all just so empty. Like, I find it hard to imagine the sort of people that are watching this and finding it engaging or interesting or fascinating or thinking, oh, she's so amazing, and this is the origin story of this incredible investigative journalist reporter. Like, to me, she just comes off as just completely an empty vessel. And it makes me think how frightened she must be a lot of the time, I know she doesn't come off that way a lot of the time. She comes off as callous and rude and entitled and all the rest of it. But a lot of that is kind of the mask of the narcissist because of how afraid they are, really, right? Because of how kind of empty the howling void is and how scary it is, right? So, just to say, as much as people like this in many ways seem to get away with something in the world, and it's so maddening when they don't face the consequences of their behavior and stuff, I feel like living inside that reality is just a never-ending consequence for them. And I would so much rather be me than Lauren. because of that fact.
Members, but just maybe
Pardon me.
not attending, and visiting people over and over that maybe people, past missionaries had given up on. And I was mostly always training, so that allowed me to be in a leadership. So I was also privileged. Like I know that some missions are so hard for some people. So I also acknowledge that I was in really lucky positions to shine. Like I was always training, and but people, I realized then that I did want to be a journalist, not just because I liked writing, but because I loved people, and everybody has a story to share, and they would open up and I would listen. I also had a lot of anxiety on my mission too, though, because I was idealistic and I thought I could help people, and I would worry about them at night, and I would go to bed with anxiety about how to help people. And so there was also that for me, like sort of this, like, you sit there and you listen to every person. You know this, John, you listen to people every day. And
I wonder if you guys believe her. Do you believe that she was laying awake at night, caring about people and thinking about how to help them? Or is it more Machiavellian than that? Maybe this is like, maybe the mission was the first time that she found a way to get consistently positive attention. Yeah.
That's got to be hard at some point, like
just holding
space
stories,
for all these people, holding space for so many people. So it was also really hard for me, but I love my companions. I love my mission. I was asked to speak at the mission conference in front of all the mission, like the mission president realized I was a good missionary, but right?
I think this is it, right? This is where she found herself a little bit, where she found a way that she could consistently get positive attention. I'm just speculating, but yeah.
Didn't follow all the rules. I put people first. I love the New Testament, and I think it was like sort of my mission where I concluded, like, I'm here because...
Wait a minute. She just said she loved the Old Testament. Now she says she loves the New Testament. Just saying.
Of Christ. Like, I really fell in love with Christ. I'd already did my study abroad in Israel. Like, I was a Christian first and foremost. Like, nothing, like, all that matters is that we touch people's soul for that moment and bring the love of Christ into their lives. But I also learned, again, that I think I was like, oh, like, I do have some talents.
Can you imagine Lauren Matthias bringing the love of Christ into your life? I mean, even Lauren Johnson. Imagine 23-year-old Lauren Johnson bringing the love of Christ into your life.
And some self-worth and some value. And like, I am good at this. Like, people are valuing me. The mission president's valuing me. I'm valuing myself, and realizing maybe I can have a career. I think I felt empowered too. Like, maybe I can have a career. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I'm not as incapable as I think I am. And so I think I learned that on my mission.
Yeah, she learned how to work people, it sounds like. Or learned that she could work people. So, yeah, that was probably formative for her. It probably was. And it probably explains a lot of who we see today. And she imagines herself as bringing Christ into these people's lives, right? She imagines herself as bringing joy and connectivity and whatever to Kay and Larry, rather than that, she's exploiting them at their most vulnerable. She sees herself as bringing the joy of Christ to them, euphemistically. Anyway, that makes a lot of sense to me. So moving on.
So many, even ex-Mormons today will say they'll always be grateful for their mission. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it can be a transformative experience.
Yeah. And to just serve for a year and a half. Like, I love that. Yeah. Whenever, I'll never have that opportunity again. I don't think,
Actually, I mean, I have to say, like, I'm not religious at all. And I don't really care for the whole idea of proselytizing. But serving, I am down with that. And I think that, it's a benefit to most people to do some kind of volunteer work in their life, some kind of service work where you literally put the needs of other people ahead of yourself, for the good of your community. And I think it's absolutely can be character building and eye-opening and all those things. So I'm not, completely down on the idea of missions, although the proselytizing is, to me, that like conditions the the service. And it's like giving with one hand and taking away with the other. So even if you think that your belief in your God is the be-all, end-all, you know, I just think that the whole idea of proselytizing is ignores healthy social boundaries. You know, the way that good fences make good neighbors. You know, there's nothing wrong with having your church doors always be open if people want to come to you. But I am not into this business of going out and trying to convert people. That's just my opinion.
Raising a family, having to make money, like, you know, just feels fair. And I also had parents that paid for it and were able to support it.
Yeah.
So timeline wise, were you already on the mission when Elizabeth Smart was rescued?
Mm-hmm. And I actually even got a call from my family. They called me. They were like so...
Which they weren't supposed to do.
Yeah, but they did. They were so ecstatic and thrilled and like just... They called me like, Elizabeth Smart was found. Yeah, it was such a big deal that I got a call on my mission. I remember crying, praying, thanking God that she was found.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, she may have cried and prayed and thanked God. And felt nothing. So I can't say. But, yeah, pretty miraculous. I think everybody can agree that finding Elizabeth Smart was a good day.
Yeah, so, because, yeah, I think she was missing for 9 months, so.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you mentioned in your outline something shocking that happened on the last day of your mission. Is there anything else, any other story you want to tell about your mission?
No, I think I feel good about my mission. Yeah. So my parents came to Ohio to pick me up so I could show them around and introduce them to all the people that I had met and had touched my hearts. And it was the very first night they picked me up from the mission home in Cleveland and took me.
So where did she say she was 23? Like, it's so infantilizing, this religion, isn't it? 23? Couldn't she travel by herself at 23? It's just, the whole religion is infantilizing to my mind.
Back to a hotel in Cleveland, Ohio, and I opened up my scriptures to read them, and I couldn't read them. I think my eyes were blurry. And I thought, that's so strange. I can't read. I remember thinking, what if something's really wrong? Because they were so blurry. And I said that to my parents, like, I can't read my scriptures. I remember mom saying, well, it's probably because you didn't sleep the night before. You're just packing. I'm like, it's true. Woke up the next day, things were a little bit better, and later in the day, like, I couldn't see. So I go home. The eyesight's getting worse and worse.
And your dad's legally blind.
And my dad's legally blind.
Right.
My dad's legally...
Okay, I've just got to say, that would be scary. I don't care who you are, that would be scary. So I can relate to little Lauren here for a minute while she's fearing for her eyesight. It would be scary.
blind.
So, I mean...
Yes, and I think that was part of my concern. I go and visit my friend, the one that got married, the one I was supposed to report back to. She flew me out to her new home in Kansas City, and I couldn't see I couldn't see the mirror to put my makeup on. Like, it was just getting worse. So finally, mom's like, let's go to Costco, and you can go get an eye test while I go shopping. And I actually go into Costco, and it was like a return missionary as well. He's like, I think he was a student, and he's like, oh, I just got back from mission 2. Let's test your eyes. And he was like, what do you see?
I just got back from mission 2, which means that she was out there saying, I just went on my mission. So she's working it, right? She's working it on everybody. Reminds me a little bit of, for some reason, puts me in mind of Wendy Adelson talking about the guy in the liquor store. Like, oh, you guys, we were just chatting. I'm like, oh, I don't know which bourbon. And he's like, oh my God, your eyes are so blue. And I was like, oh my God. Reminds me a little bit of that.
On the wall. And I'm like, where? He goes, straight ahead on the wall. I was like, I don't see anything. He's like, okay. Oh, well.
Yeah, I don't believe that. She couldn't see anything. She's walking around in Costco, or is it Costco? Wherever it is. She's walking around just fine, and yet she can't see the chart in front of her. She can't even see it. I don't see anything. Jesus.
Okay, so finally he's like doing all these different tests, and then he said, so does anybody in your family have like like eye issues? I was like, yeah, my dad has Stargardt's disease. And he opens a textbook and starts reading about it. And he looks at me and he goes, I hate to break it to you. I think you have Stargardt's disease. You're legally blind. And I burst into tears in Costco. I was like, okay. Well, I had it. Yeah, I was just like, okay. I go out. I wasn't going to tell this story, but it's a great one. Like, he just like lays it out to me. I'm like, oh.
It's a great one. It is a great one, Lauren, so far. And like, I mean, your storytelling abilities are unmatched. So this is amazing.
Okay. And I can't see because my eyes are dilated. He's like, there's no corrective lens that's helping. You're legally blind and no corrective lens is helping to get better. And when he removed one, I could see that the thing he was asking me to look at was a giant E. So I find my mom and then I burst into tears and I tell her I have Stargardt's disease. That's the beginning. I'll jump to the end. I didn't have Stargardt's disease. He jumped the gun, but because of my dad's legal blindness, everyone just assumed that this was some Stargardt's disease mutation. And it wasn't. I was finally sent for an MRI and I had multiple sclerosis. And so my optic nerve was malfunctioning. And I also think it probably started happening last day of my mission because of anxiety.
Oh, wow. I had heard something about her having MS, but I thought I must have imagined it because she doesn't seem to be affected by it. I don't know a lot about MS, to be sure, and I guess it can have a slow onset. Okay, sorry. Moving on. I'm a little bit shocked. Let's hear.
Stress because it's your nervous system. And so who knows how long it had been in my body, but it was a relapse at that moment. And, I got on steroids and I got on medication. And so it's stable today. I have relapse remission, but that actually made me think like, I just need to stay home for a while. I stayed home while I finished up college at the University of Utah. And that's just, I have multiple sclerosis and I have to manage it and I get exhausted but things are stable.
I can't believe you do what you do.
Again, great story, Lauren. Not that I am dissing her, or doubting her, how the effects of MS, what that would be like. But my God, does this woman not know how to tell a story?
With MS, it just blows my mind.
Yeah,
So she gets attention for that too. So, yeah, fair enough. I guess I don't really know what to say. She does not seem like someone who has MS. And I don't know enough about it to say anything one way or another for sure.
Yeah. So, fingers crossed though. It just gets scarier as you get older a bit, but I'm keeping it maintained and do my best and take a lot of power naps. Mm-hmm.
It's like Ginger Rogers doing everything Fred Astaire did, but backwards with heels. I just remember that. And then trying to think what happens next. I graduate college. Oh, dating. Oh, yeah. Well, I came home. Not dating. Yeah, I came home and, maybe you guys haven't figured this out. I thought a lot about it actually since I've gotten older, but I just felt that men didn't like me. Maybe it was Mormon men in general. I don't know. You wrote something about men. You said men don't like successful women. My impression is that's particularly true in Mormon culture, that a Mormon man does not want an educated, ambitious wife. Am I wrong?
I suspect that that's very true. I suspect he's right. Yes.
No, you're
that's
true.
Not me, but that's...
You're true, but at this moment, I don't even know how successful I was, right? I hadn't graduated college yet. I was kind of floundering, but I think also, I was kind of loud and outspoken and maybe not the most... I don't know.
Loud or assertive?
Assertive.
Assertive or aggressive? Aggressive.
The first guy that asked me out after my mission was actually someone that wasn't LDS. Ironically enough, it was a young single adult fireside.
Define ironic, Lauren.
And he was the speaker. They had gotten him in. He was an inspirational speaker. He was someone in the community that was kind of a big deal and had an inspirational speech to give. And he asked for my number. And I went out with him, which didn't end well. It was just one day. But LDS, I did not date a lot even right after my mission. But I still hadn't even had a boyfriend. So then...
wow, mid-20s and hadn't had a boyfriend yet. Yeah, she does kind of remind me of my sister more and more.
And then I decided, after I got home from my mission, I was a little bit more motivated to graduate college, and I wanted to graduate in journalism, and I had this idea again for my mission, I am going to be a broadcast journalist. I graduate late from college. I think I was 26, and then I'm torn, because again, I have this, I need to date. I want to get married. I'm 26 now. Now I'm...
So where did she graduate from college? She says, I want to be a broadcast journalist. So you'd think that the next thing would be, so then I went and got my journalism certificate, degree, diploma, anything. But no, that's weird to me.
Thinking, if I've never even had a boyfriend, how am I going to ever, I'm going to be 35 by the time I even meet someone that wants to get married. And so where do I want to start my career? Now I have to get into a career. Do I really want to go to a small town where I'd have to start broadcast journalism, a teeny tiny town when I'm single? Or should I just go to New York City, which was my dream? I wanted to go to New York. I wasn't going to stay in Salt Lake. It was either small town or New York City.
it was her dream to go to New York, but this is the first time she's mentioned it in the whole thing, apart from that they lived there for a while when she was a kid. But she has never said, oh, I loved it and I always wanted to go back, like nothing. So now apparently it's always been her dream.
And so I ultimately decided, like, my brother was in New York. He's like, you can stay with us here while you look. And so I moved to New York. And I was, right when I moved to New York, so I'm at this place where I was like, okay, I've got to like make life happen for me because I'm single. I'm in New York City making contacts, and I am sent an article in the Salt Lake newspaper that starts with my dad's mugshot. And I'm starting to read it.
What year is this? Ish.
So did you notice the passive construction there? I am sent an article. Who sent her the article? What? That's a big... What?
2006. I didn't think. I've actually never talked about this. I didn't know. So I started to read it. And it said that...
She's never talked about it. Yeah, I bet that she has kept that a big secret. And she probably realized that if that's probably part of the reason she didn't want to come on Mormon Stories Podcast. And she realized that she was going to have to talk about it if she was going to get on here and tell her story ahead of, stuff coming out about her. So here we go.
You've been charged with securities fraud. And as I'm reading it, my friend calls me from Salt Lake. And she's like, Lauren, how are you? And I'm like, I'm good. How are you? Like, there was a lot of beating around the bush. Like, I knew why she was calling. But I hadn't even finished reading the article. I didn't know what was going on. So like, I'm good. She's like, well, how's your family? Like, I'm like, good. Finally, she's like, well, Lauren, I saw the article about your dad. Like, what's going on? And I didn't want her to know that I didn't.
So this is her friend calling her from Salt Lake City. This is a friend. Don't you tell your friends things? Don't you want to share the terrible things that are happening so that you can get support and stuff from your friends? It's like she's hiding it and she's trying to find out how much the friend knows before she's willing to say what she knows or whatever. And she's not aware that that's weird. Is that weird? To me, that's weird. I would be like, oh my God, I can't believe you just called. I'm just reading this article. Oh my God, did you hear? If this was actually a friend. Not a frenemy.
Know anything. Like, I just started reading the article. So I remember just saying, like, well, everything's fine. Like, yeah. Like, I couldn't tell her I didn't know. And so I was like, oh, you saw it? Like, I was just like, oh. So I hung up. And I finished reading. And then I called my mom.
Like, this is not even a story. This is a non-story. Like, all these weird little... My friend called. I pretended I didn't know anything. So I hung up. And then it's like, but what... How did your friend react when you... Like, it's... How is she a journalist? I don't know.
She seemed okay. She was, like, being calm. I called my brother, the one I was living with in New York, Clark, and his wife. And I was just like, I've got to go home. I've got to go home and check on everyone. And Clark was like, don't go. If you go home, you're never coming back out to New York. And I'm like, I've got to go home. I've got to check on mom. I got to figure out what's going on. And he was right. I left and I never came back to New York. And
I'm going to guess that she left. She took the first opportunity to leave because even though she was making contacts in New York, whatever that means, she was probably struggling. And this opportunity to get out of there without having to admit that she failed was too good to pass up. So here we go.
Nor did I ever move to a small town yet, because what happened next, and my dad's story, I'm not going to tell his story. I love my dad. My dad's an incredible man. So that's his story.
That's his story. I'm not going to tell it. So securities fraud. That's not great. And she wants to gloss over it, apparently. Because it's his story. And she loves him, and he's really great.
To tell, but what happened in the aftermath of our family to me is what I want to tell. But that was the beginning of probably years of tumultuous, really, those moments in life where everything changes. In that moment, everything changed. And like the first criminal trial I ever attended in full was my dad's. People don't realize that.
People don't realize that. How would they realize that if you don't tell them and you keep it all secret? How would people realize it?
I also feel like many things were unfair and wrong about his conviction.
But she's not going to tell us what, probably. Right?
He was sentenced the first time only to 5 months. And then, though, federal charges came down for the same thing, which I think are ridiculous. And we went through the same thing again. And then it was later, and he was...
But why are they ridiculous? This woman is supposedly a professional investigative journalist, and that's all she's got to say is, and they were ridiculous. Moving on.
Sentenced for a lot longer. And through that amount of time, I mean, the things that happened, like overall, like money became an ultimate, like, so here I was about to start my career, but we were also like, as if like a debt that I didn't expect all of a sudden came on me too, along with student loans. The house, my mother had a mental breakdown. She's never been the same since. I had to actually move in with her for a little bit into a teeny tiny apartment, and I lived there because there were self-harm concerns. And so I stayed with her. Our house had to be cleared out because we thought we were going to be losing it. I remember actually being in there alone in this empty house with nowhere to go, just crying, where do I go? The siblings sort of all floundered, and we were all just fending for ourselves.
Okay, again, she just does not tell a good story. She's living with her mother in a little tiny apartment, and then she's alone in the house as they're moving out, and she has nowhere to go. These things are not congruent, and there's no real storyline here. How is this woman a journalist?
I remember so many people came to help, but you learned who your friends were too. You learn the negative parts of humanity too.
You learn. Not I learned, right? It's very, it's a very disjointed and disassociated rendering of whatever was going on with her family there.
Where people judge you, the people you know, you're like, oh, really? And then where other people are very warm and kind and wanting to help during a tragedy where others, want to not associate with you. My dad was never excommunicated. The ward always continued to visit him and care for him for the most part. And my mother, again, has never been the same since. I don't even know where,
In what way has your mother never been the same since? Give us an example. Literally anything. How are people watching this and not literally expiring from boredom? I mean, these are all the MS story and the her father being arrested story, and these are big, life-altering events, and I feel nothing listening to her except irritation. So I don't know if that means she's lying or she just has no real feelings about any of this herself and is trying to manufacture the feelings that she thinks that other people would have. I can't say, but I can say that it's tedious and very unengaging.
To give it in chronological order would be pointless, but everything happened in years and years from losing our home. I, at one point, was sleeping on a mat in my friend's basement, very grateful for them.
So her enormous privilege was suddenly revealed to have been a scam, it sounds like. And she was now facing life without the, the safety net that she had always had and had come to expect. And that people that have money, tend to, they very often translate the fact that they have money into some kind of a personal character trait that proves that they are winning at life in a way that the rest of us aren't managing it. So I was living on a mattress in my friend's basement when I was 15 because I had to get away from the abusive home life that I had. So, she's experiencing life. And it's not very interesting.
I finally started getting asked out immediately after my dad Went to prison. I had a friend say to me, I wish my dad would go to prison. Maybe I'd start getting asked out. She actually said that to me.
Do you feel like there was a connection?
I think there was.
Really?
What was that about?
I'm hoping you guys can tell me, but like, I've definitely thought like I was vulnerable.
Yeah.
I was helpless.
When I got excommunicated,
She was vulnerable and helpless because her dad went to prison when she was in her mid-20s. I mean, aren't most of us well on our way by our mid-20s in terms of being independent from our, families of origin? No? I don't know. I'm not Mormon. I don't know what it's like in most Mormon families, if they stick really close, if their kids stay home till they're in their 30s or something. I don't know.
young boys from my daughter's high school started hitting on her because they thought she'd be easy.
Yeah, I feel like I would have like
And
2
they're
dates.
Mormon boys, by the way.
Yeah, I went from like never dating to having like 2 dates a day. Like I was getting asked out so much, and I.
Okay. Again, I don't think I even believe this. I went from nobody even wanted to talk to me because I was so aggressive and off-putting to suddenly I'm getting asked out multiple times every day. I don't really believe it, but okay.
hadn't changed. It was, yeah.
How are you meeting these people? Were you going to like young single adult?
So she wasn't changed by her mission or by living in New York or by having her father, finding out that her father was a white-collar criminal and had been sent to prison, losing the family home, the siblings scattering like the wind. And she was exactly the same as she was before. She hadn't changed. Sorry.
Words or were the apps?
No,
It's
I was
probably
social.
pre-apps, right?
Yeah, I was social. You know, I was like, I'm an extrovert. And so
Yeah.
I was a social young adult. And again, like, even though I wasn't necessarily very flirtatious, because like I said, I have brothers, I know how to be friends. Like I was friends with the elders on my mission. Like I do know how to like be friends with guys and girls, and I'm warm and I'm friendly. And so I'd go to social functions, but like,
Do any of you experience Lauren as warm? I'm trying to, like, thinking back even to the first time I watched her, the first time I watched Hidden True Crime, and I remember thinking that she was being abused by Dr. John because of the absolutely over-the-top deference that she showed him in this kind of frozen way. You know how she is, she's so serious. Thank you. Today we're reporting about the very serious case that is so serious. It's just also very performative that I've lost track of what I was saying. Sorry.
or like even guys from the past too, or like it was night and day. Like all of a sudden,
Wow,
I'm like getting asked out so much.
it's really interesting.
Yeah, and I'm staying in Salt Lake now, and I get a job at a nonprofit organization, so neither the journalism or the New York City plan. But I just need to pay off debt and survive, and I was accepting a lot of the dates too. Like this is true. Like I was accepting a lot of dates too because I wouldn't buy food.
I was gonna say you're gonna get fed.
I got fed. I like when people say free meal, like I was getting fed. I would also go to social functions to eat. Like there's a barbecue. Like I was like, how do I get food? Like I didn't want to grocery shop. Like I was trying to pay off debt, and I wasn't making a lot. It was like a first time job out of college at a nonprofit, and it was.
I don't know why that's like. I know I just can't help feeling that it's predatory when she's doing it. Although I know that. I would never accept a date with somebody just because I wanted a free meal. First of all, but I know that people fresh out of college, working their first low pay minimum wage jobs often don't have enough money to eat properly and stuff like that. But somehow the way she's talking about it, it just comes off as predatory.
Working full time, and so yeah, I would accept a lot of the dates.
Did you see that as a silver lining, the increase in, or the emergence of date invitations? Or
Maybe.
just desperation, or
No, maybe like I did want to meet a man. Like if I was going to be in Salt Lake City, I did hope to date. I don't know if it was all, and like I said, like yeah, I think.
So that if I was going to be in Salt Lake City, is that because she's looking for a Mormon husband? I guess, right? Probably, right?
Probably, but it came with its, there were a lot of guys. Yeah, like all dating stories, there's frustrations.
some
too.
not great guys.
Yeah. I had my first boyfriend. So yeah. So
She's not going to mention his name or anything about him. Like, how can she talk so much and say absolutely nothing? It is bizarre.
Yeah. But no one I wanted to marry, or no one, or yeah. So
I mean, I'll just try to imagine what that might have been like for you, and I can say that Utah is always feels like a very small place. Like there's always 2 or 3 degrees of separation from any of us with each other. So if if Mormonism is a really small place, and Utah's an even smaller place, and Salt Lake City's even a smaller place, to have your dad be the subject of a federal news story, maybe a prisoner, I mean, how was that for you? Like socially, right?
Yeah, it was awful. Yeah, it was a talk. It was actually, I remember a particular date. This guy really liked me, and I didn't like him, but he kept coming around with giant flowers, and he thought that we were a thing when I wasn't into him. But I remember him saying, like, he's like, I'm telling my friends about you, and they're like, wow, how interesting you came into her life at this time, to help, like, almost like to rescue me. Yeah, which I didn't like that. Like nobody needs to feel.
So why would she continue to go out with him if she didn't like him and she wasn't into him, and he very clearly was very into her and bringing her flowers all the time? Again, and like, look at this face on her, right? She's looking the side eye like he was some terrible bad person or something. It's like, you're the one who is accepting gifts and dates from someone that you don't like. And she's not aware that that's what she's telling us right now. And like, he was the jerk because he was trying to help her after her father was arrested and their family lost everything. It's all very weird.
Sorry for me.
So I'm curious, after your mission, but then after your dad becomes a national news story, how your Mormon faith is sort of absorbing and progressing and evolving, especially as you're living now in Utah.
So he's asking a substantive question of a person with no substance. So let's see what she says.
Yeah.
And trying to date and figure out what to do with your career.
Yeah. I'm clinging to it. When this sort of thing happens, your entire reality as you know it sort of disintegrates. In fact, I think I have a lot of, I'll say this, empathy for these other...
I'll say it. Go ahead, say it, Lauren. Be daring. Say it. We all know you have no empathy.
criminal trials that I cover, whenever there's another family member testifying or talking about their father or the person they love, or they can't, Chad Daybell's kids, a case I've covered a lot of, when they can't see what he did. I have a lot of empathy, because they are clinging to what they believe their entire life was. That, like, this is the life they know, this is the parents they know, this is the dad they know. And if they have to, I can't even imagine. My dad was a white collar.
Okay, but this is long after the fact that, excuse me, this is long after the time that Chad Daybell's children should have accepted reality and accepted who their father is. So saying that you have a lot of empathy for those grown-ass adults who are choosing to live in a fantasy about their murderous father when the remains of 2 children were found on his property. Like, this is the empathic Lauren Matthias out there for the victims' families. She's offering sympathy to people who continue to see their father as some kind of, modern day hard done by story about police corruption, I guess? Like, I did not expect this.
Crime. You can't imagine what you'd have to do to face that your dad, to jump ahead to Chad Daybell, like, had children buried in his yard. I have a lot of empathy for children who can't see their parents' crimes. And I think that I'm clinging to my faith deeply because I want my family unit and the tradition of my family to stay intact. In fact, I probably am more desperate than ever at this moment to find a man and get married in the LDS temple and get this Mormon fairy tale more than ever, because
because the image that she is trying to, portray, that she's this, from her mission, right? That she's this great missionary, that she's this caring person, that she's all about the stories, all that stuff is has been taken out at the knees by her father's arrest. And so she is desperate to, get her mask on straight again, basically, in my opinion.
Reality has just completely has been blown to smithereens. A lot of my siblings are no longer active. My little brother's not going on a mission now, and I was trying to encourage him to go, and he didn't want to go. My sweet brother Jamie, and nothing. I can't control anything, but maybe, I think I was actually desperate to hold on to my faith at this moment because I just wanted to control something and bring everything back to what it was, which is what I also say when I see people after crime hits their family wanting to just have things go back to what they were. It's never going to. So I think that's where I was. But I say that, but before, I do think things were shifting and changing, and I had a different perception on my faith and religion at this point too, which was probably also making it more difficult for me to find a good Mormon man to date. Things were happening. Prop 8 was happening during this time. My dad had actually served his 5 months and was home during Prop 8, and it was before the federal charges and the federal sentencing. So he was home at that moment during Prop 8. And at this point, before I jumped to Prop 8, as far as LGBTQ rights go in high school, before my mission, I had gay rights postcards in frames in my bedroom.
Did you know my nephew, cousin George Parkinson?
George lived with us.
Yeah.
I love George.
Yeah. So he was my cousin Brett's son.
Yeah. Yeah, he was living with us when he passed away. I love George.
Did you have a sense, did he ever talk to you about?
No idea who this person is, what this could possibly be about. Obviously, I guess other Mormons would know, or they would do something to explain it. I don't know. Anyway, just saying, I don't know what this is about.
Being gay, or did you have a sense?
Yeah, he was my little brother Jamie's really good friend. Well, he ended up being a dear family friend. And yeah, we knew, and we loved him as we loved many others that we knew were growing up and were gay. And the neighborhood I grew up in.
Just like Mika Stauffer and all of the special needs kids, she was so empathic for all of them.
Really embraced those who were gay. And in fact, I remember seeing you at George's funeral.
This is what I'm talking about. This is the voice. We really embraced those who were gay. And I remember seeing you at George's funeral. This is the presentation. Look at this face, right? This is, oh my God. It's so, I don't even know what the word is. It's just all performance. It just feels like such a performance. I feel nothing when this woman speaks. Literally nothing.
You didn't know me then. But I remember that was in my ward building. And I came down, and we're jumping ahead now, but I remember how beautiful Brett, your cousin's speech was. I looked around and I saw Governor Leavitt was in there. Gordon Hinckley's son was in there. You were in there. It was like everybody joined together for this precious boy, George, who died too young. And his father, Brett, stood up in that chapel and said, the most important thing we need to speak about is that George was gay and that you all accepted him. And that was actually a beautiful moment for me. It was George's funeral. I didn't plan to talk about this, but you just brought George up because we were all there to love. I just saw this amazing opportunity to present myself as some kind of advocate and ally for the LGBTQ community, who I will throw under the bus during my husband John's 4-hour response to the 9-hour pity party I'm about to put out in a couple of weeks. Throw them under the bus in exchange for a chicken sandwich, as I recall. George, and we did. And I think that was my experience with LGBTQ growing up, was we loved our gay brothers and sisters. It was confusing. It was confusing with what we were taught, but I remember...
Oh, I was just going to say, it's not confusing. How is it confusing? But then again, I was not taught that it's wrong, so I'll let her have that one.
Or that the young women's had George teach about fashion because he loved fashion, and they had him for mutual when they teach the girls about clothing. I love George.
You would have come to his Shiva, right? Like the wig.
Mm-hmm.
I think I met you there.
Yeah.
I think that's when we first met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say before that, I remember my experience, I wasn't necessarily a major advocate. I didn't really understand. My first experience with LGBTQ rights actually was in high school, where my high school, East High, was in national news because there was a gay club and the district was shutting down all gay clubs. And it became national news. And there was a walkout with my school. And I remember just thinking sort of then, well, this is fun. We get like a period off of school. We get some class time off and there's all this media. And I was just sort of more of like a spectator of it all without a strong opinion. But then after the walkout, I went back to class and I had French. We had this wonderful French teacher. And rather than teaching a French lesson that day, she was leading a discussion with the whole class. And that was like the first moment I remember thinking, gosh, I should really care about this. Like, I just didn't have a strong opinion until that French class.
I mean, you know what? I think that it's pretty normal for... I mean, obviously, you don't know everything when you're a kid, and you learn about the world as you grow up, and you learn that gay people exist, unless you were born into a family of 2 moms or 2 dads, or have a gay uncle or whatever. But, you know, kids that are born into traditional families maybe don't learn about gay people very, right away, whatever. Obviously, we all learn different things in different time periods and whatever. But, I know a lot of children. I'm just going to say, I know a lot of children of, from kindergarten up to high school age kind of thing. And my experience of them is that they are very, they're very fair-minded and very ethical and very concerned about people who are not being treated fairly in society. So for her to be midway through her teens and have never had an opinion one way or another about the LGBTQ community is again revealing of something that she maybe isn't wanting to reveal, which is that unless or until someone points out to her how to feel about something, she doesn't know, because she does not possess natural empathy.
Because I saw all these kids that I hadn't really conversed with before, and she was allowing this open discussion for all these children to share their thoughts on this walkout on the gay clubs. And this girl was raising her hand saying, it's not fair. There needs to be a separation between church and state, and talking about it. And I remember thinking, oh, she's right. Yeah, there does need to be. And like, that was a moment for me to realize, like, this is important. We loved our gay brothers and sisters, but yeah, it was confusing and complicated. None of my siblings.
Again, I just don't feel like it's confusing or complicated, and people who describe it that way are trying to protect an ideological position, or just generally trying to make themselves seem more of a deep thinker. It's like, I got really into the deep scripture, the deep doctrine or whatever, without ever mentioning any of it or anything she learned or anything that she took away from it. So I think this is just performative nonsense, honestly.
Things were gay. I didn't have to deal with it on that family level. But I think
that gives it away right there. I didn't have to deal with it on that family level. That's how she just couched that, right? When, like, a non-judgmental way of saying that would have been to say, so I didn't have any personal experience of it growing up. But yeah, I never had to deal with it is, again, revealing.
That I always thought that once gay marriage was legalized, gay temple marriages would be a thing. Like, that was my fantasy. I guess I just sort of assumed that was going to...
Yeah, she fantasized about that because she cared so deeply about the LGBTQ community that it was her dream. Like, it was always her dream to go to New York. It was her dream that gay marriages would be performed in the LDS temple. I believe that.
It'd be a thing one day. All religions and churches change. All of them. That's also why I don't have an issue with, like, when I see change in the church, like, and I may be a bit of an apologist there, because that's what churches and religions do, is change.
Do they? Do they, though? I mean, to some extent, I think that's true. But very often, as far as I understand it, people who want to see change in the church have to kind of break away and have their own little church over here now, or their own sect or whatever. So to my mind, the church is remarkably similar to what it always was. Although I'm pretty happy with the latest pope and the one that came before him.
And shift. And I think that's a good thing. I celebrate that. And so I just always assumed that once society accepted gay marriage and made it legal, gay temple marriages would be happening and we would be having gay bishops, and so goes the progression of life. But, you know, so I came back from my mission, and again, my dad had just come back from his 5 months behind bars, and Prop 8 is happening. And at this moment, I was just like hopping around to different singles wards. I had my records in my home ward, and I remember being really confused. Like, why is the church backing this? Like, this is upsetting. Like, what are they, like, why are they trying? Like, I thought we wanted this progression. I really thought we were all like waiting for this to happen. Don't we want gay marriage to be legal? Because then everything's great. But I remember trying to process it, like probably some cognitive.
Again, mid-20s, and she hasn't figured out that the Mormon church is not accepting of gay people.
And it's like, okay, it must be this 501c3. Like, okay, like we're going to lose our nonprofit status. There's got to be something like complex that I'm not understanding. So, because the church I know wouldn't do this, that I've decided in my brain. And my dad actually started an email thread, and all of the siblings were sharing their different thoughts about it. And I went and dug up the email that my dad wrote, because it was a very profound moment for me. Like, he was listening to all of us. We were all emailing. We were in on Gmail. So again, like, I'm trying to like figure it out. I think I must have written this, that like maybe it's like we have to keep our nonprofit. Like, why would the church be doing this? And we're all talking, and this is what my dad says to all of us. I'm just going to read it. He writes, "Children, thank you for your thoughts. And Lauren, that was a fascinating outline." Don't know what I said, but "Children, thank you for your thoughts. Lauren, that was a fascinating outline. I am going to contribute. I oppose Prop 8, and I regret that the church has taken a public stance against it and seems to have called for the saints to actively campaign against it. First, I strongly disagree that a civil political right, as in marriage, voting, medical treatment, as in contraceptives, abortion, public education, as in creationism and prayers in schools, individual privacy in the home, who you have sex with or marry, should be shaped or curtailed in conformity around a religious doctrine. If the church asserts that gays cannot be married in the temple or by church officials, that is okay, and I accept that as the current doctrine. But that should not affect what the civil authority does. Churches have tried to control everything from women's childbearing decisions to business activity to even what sexual positions couples may adopt. Lauren notes the current concern that somehow a church could be sued, or put another way in some of the emails, lose their tax-free status. This is incorrect. A religion can have a doctrine no matter what the law says, and this is protected by the freedom of religion, expression, assembly, etc. Further, one cannot force a person, say a bishop or Baptist minister, to perform a marriage by, say, an injunction, etc. The claim, voiced by many Mormons, is that the church must do this to protect itself. Protect the doctrine, tax-free status, etc. This is exaggerated. It is alarmist to get us LDS people going to protect our church. That threat is misplaced. Further, gays who want to marry, want to be responsible, monogamous, to be a family. These people recognize the value of marriage and family and want to embrace it. And I think they should be able to adopt kids. God forbid an orphan be adopted by a same-sex couple married and ready to love a child and give them a home. Finally, my decision here is mostly affected by having been a father. I have watched many parents raise gay children and grapple with these issues. I have known many gay LDS youth that I cared for and saw struggle, and I realized a long time ago when you were all little that if one of my children confronted this in their lives, I would never abandon them, could never do that, and I would work to keep them attached in some way to the church I love. I would strive to come to know and accept their companion and hope they'd find the same happiness together as my other kids, and I would work to help change the policies of my church. I cannot see a loving LDS parent doing anything else. I could write on this for pages. I would like to know more about how to join with other saints and resist the passage of Prop 8. Dad.
Okay, so I just have to say that that's great. I don't have any particular argument with what her dad said, except for characterizing being gay as having to confront that. Could just be a poor choice of words. However, this is supposed to be Lauren's Mormon story, as she has pointed out more than once, and she was not wanting to tell her dad's story when it came to his securities fraud charges, but she seems very eager to pull out his opinions here to read them out to us, and it reminds me very much so that she can co-sign and say, this is what I also think. And it reminds me a lot of Dr. John and his textbooks and his need to use his textbooks to back up anything and everything that he says. And that, to me, this is evidence of my suspicion, which is that Lauren has no particularly deep thoughts about any of this stuff, and that if she had thought about it as deeply as she has claimed to have thought about it, and maybe her family did or whatever, but that doesn't mean that she understood or was deeply engaged, but that she should be able to speak about this without having to read off somebody else's words about it, if it was that important to her, and if it was her dream that LGBTQ people would be able to marry in the temple. So again, I just feel like she doesn't really have anything to say of her own, and that she needs to parrot other people. And the only thing of substance that has been said so far in all of this is this email from her dad, and it's not like she didn't do it. So I'm just going to let her wrap this up, and then I am going to wrap up for today.
And I think that was like a moment for me where like I stopped the mush in my brain. Like I was doing this like cognitive dissonance like dance, like wait a minute, like trying to like fit this in like some sort of strange like why is this happening. And my dad said that. I was like, yeah, you're right.
You see what I mean? I was having some cognitive dissonance and trying to fit this into, but literally, she just said nothing. Like, it was so confusing and hard for me to understand, and I just couldn't work it out. She's like 25 years old. Sorry. Okay. Let's let her finish, and then I'll wrap up.
Right. And absolutely. And we had a sign in our yard, and I saw my dad actually on local TV out at the rallies, saying vote no. And I was right, and that he was like, I mean, I felt right. I shouldn't ever, someone's going to disagree with me. Like, it's an opinion. I felt good about I still feel good about it. And I think that like, clearly I was becoming more and more liberal in my thought processes. And that sort of created some differences in worldview and thought than with other, people I was dating. Like I had my friends and I wanted to meet a man similar to me, but it was also becoming, I think, a little bit more complex. And I remember also during this time as an LDS woman, this just made sense for me too. And it was hard for me to understand others who didn't see this way. Because for me, like if you go back, like one of the theologies I love about the LDS faith is Christ's plan versus Satan's plan, right? Like our origin story, even before the origin story of Joseph Smith, the pre-existence origin story is Satan had a plan, Christ had a plan. And Christ's plan was that everyone gets to choose and do and be like, you do you. You get to do whatever is best. You get to be you and live and have freedom of choice. And Satan's plan was, I want to control all of these things. And I want to control what you choose and how you do it so that everyone can make good choices. Like, this is the temple. Like, this is, the plan of salvation. And we chose Christ's plan as a church. And so for me, Prop 8 was the opposite of Christ's plan. Like, it's so frustrating to me because, like, what I loved about and still love about the LDS Church theology is this sort of metaphor of Christ versus Satan, and that everybody deserves to live life the way that they see fit. We are not to control somebody else's choices.
Okay, I have to stop there. Because I have to go to work and stuff. But that's the first analogy she has made. She didn't do a great job of it, but I will give her credit that she made an analogy between Prop 8 and Satan versus the freedom offered by Christ. Clearly she misinterpreted the meaning of the LDS faith, or why they wanted to use that analogy to their own benefit. But yes. So I'm just gonna stop here. Okay, so thank you again, everybody, for coming. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, hitting the little notification button, commenting, chatting, all that sort of stuff. I am very grateful for all of you. I continue to be just amazed at this lovely and generous community. So thanks for coming, and we'll see you next time.